Our first top story this morning is going to be looking at the politics in Edo and Rivers State. And this morning we're going to be joined by the founder of Albino Foundation. He is an expert in policy development and advocacy. He's a human rights activist and sits on various committees at the United Nations and the African Union. We're joined this morning by Mr. Jake Epelle. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. You pronounce my name so well.
Oh, thank you.
But we made a change. The organization is no longer the Albino Foundation. It's Tough Africa, the All Right Foundation.
Fantastic.
And I know you don't have all the time for me to explain why we had to.
Can you give us a brief explanation?
Well, the thing is, albinism, I'm a person with albinism. There's nobody like an albino. And using the term albino is derogatory because albino is a compound word from the Latin word albos, and it means extremely white. But then, in the context of social development, you don't put the person, you don't put the condition before the person. You put the condition before, you put the person before the condition. So like, I am a person with albinism. My other segment of disability is a person with disability, not disabled people. You know, and these things matters because it focuses on derogation of the individual, dehumanization of the individual, yes, rather than talking about a condition that is often temporary, because certain disability are acquired, some are inborn, so you have to deal with that. So events happen around an individual, not that person. Yeah. You probably have failed, like I have failed in several times in business, but
that doesn't define.
That's an event. It has nothing to do with me.
I think that it was very important, that you explained and highlighted this, and you changed the name. It's a learning curve and a learning process for a number of people, and very also important for us because part of the conversations that we're having here at the Nigerian Economic Summit are focused on inclusive development and what that means. So now let's get into our conversation for the morning, and we're looking at the political crisis that has bedeviled certain states in Nigeria, focusing particularly on Rivers State and Edo State. We'll begin with Rivers State and get your general overview of all that's happened in Rivers State.
I think I'll talk about Rivers State politics with two lenses. Number one is the cause. What is the cause? Talking about the effect, and then the effect. Now, you see, pointedly, the issue about Rivers State goes beyond Fubara and Wike. There's been an underlying issues that have not been properly addressed. Issues of ethnicity and certain ethnic group dominating the leadership structure of the state. The issue of resource control, where a certain group is impoverished and the other group seems to be thriving, whether it's education or economic empowerment. The other thing is the build-up of certain group of young men and women who feels that the nation had actually taking life out of them, and they want to take things by themselves, take the law into account and do whatever they want to do, So it's a very complex situation that has a multiplier effect, But as of today, the crisis is focused on two individuals, Fubara and Wike. One is current, the other is X. Unfortunately, Mr. Wike, the FCT minister, the former governor, wants to be where he is, which is FCT, and remote control what happens in Rivers State. And something about power and balance of power, there's an extent to which you can push your influence, and it turns out to be negative. Unfortunately, my dear sister, the greatest loser in all of this political fiasco is the people. And I'm very worried about the fact that these individuals are not given room for governance and the dividends of governance which should go to the people. So you see there's a slow start, there's a struggle with the current administration to move things forward. Now, again, whenever there is issues like this, there's always a solution. And the solution for me should focus on dialogue. Can we bring these people together in the same room possibly and let them air their grievances and let someone sometimes help them to understand?
Is it not too late to dialogue? They've been dialoguing for a while.
It's never too late. That's the only way we can get solution. That's the only way we can get solution. And so that is one area that we haven't been able to effectively dialogue and get a concrete solution. The president tried it. It didn't work. Certain individuals remotely have done their best. It's not working. But guess what? I believe that the person who have the ace to solve this problem is still the president. He's the president and commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, president over all states of the Federation. And their concept, the idea that it doesn't matter, it's a destructive path to take.
Well, I mean, there's going to be people who would argue that, I mean, calling for dialogue, almost gives some credibility to the claims of both sides. Nyesom Wike, of course, the role that he has played in the politics and the disruptions that we've seen in Rivers State in the last, year plus. Anybody can decide to do that, and, take advantage of the democracy and, disrespect the people, disrespect the state, disrespect the, the governance of the state, simply because he has the right to. And then at the end, we'll say, oh, you guys should dialogue. But I mean, he has disrespected the democracy of Rivers State long enough. But the pendulum seems to be swinging towards Sim Fubara with regard sympathy for his cause, and many people seem to be sympathetic, with his points. Do you think his hands are clean? Do you think he simply, has just simply been that innocent sitting duck, who's been bullied by this big wolf in the FCT, and everyone should just simply have pity for Sim Fubara?
I want to commend you in the sense that you have spoken like a true journalist who sees issues the way it should be seen, and that's very commendable. However, whenever two people, and my darling sister, that doesn't mean you're equally commendable. Yeah, you're equally commendable. But let's put things in perspective. Whenever two people have problems, whenever there's a problem, maybe husband and wife, the problem is never one-sided. It's always this person must have done something wrong, that person must have done something wrong. But oftentimes, the person who is objective, the person who is able to stir not sympathy, but the empathy of the people, tend to be on the winning side. And that's what is happening to my good friend Fubara. Again, I've had audience with Fubara. The only time I had audience with Wike was when he was the Minister for the State for Education. I tend to have a little bit knowledge of the two individuals and their temperaments, and sometimes their ambition, Fubara is a very quiet, very objective, very empathic individual. I can tell you for free, that guy is not power drunk. If it's said today that, look, walk away from this office, he will. I can tell you one thing that a lot of people don't. There was a time that he's been forced to almost resignation, and he walked away. So when somebody is not that ambitious, when somebody is given to the people, when somebody is God-fearing, it tends to be on the winning side. When an individual is one that is fighting not for victory, but from victory, he tends to get the support of the people. You know, when also you're not showing the sign of being destructive and disruptive of the system, you know, you tend to be on the winning side. I'll give you another instance, and this is my advocacy, or whatever you will call it, appeal to the FCT minister. Every leader leads and leaves a legacy. Those who lead well will want to maintain their legacy. But when you lead and you are bent on destroying your own legacy, that's a self-destruct. And I think this is what is playing out. And as I look into this camera, I speak to anyone, including the FCT minister. You have left a legacy. Don't contribute or allow anybody to contribute to destroying that legacy. And I think that's a message that should resonate not only in his face, but in his heart.
All right, well, we're going to move to other, conversations across the country. I think Olive, would like to chip in next. But I just wanted to quickly mention, when you say a person who has not contributed to disruptions or destructions, you would always seemingly win. In 2023, the Rivers State House of Assembly complex was demolished, allegedly to stop the sitting of House of Assembly members who maybe plan to impeach the governor then. In a sane society, that should have been properly investigated. That maybe should be an impeachable offense, against sinful power. So again, this is the reason I was pointing out that he may not necessarily be as innocent, as he seems to be portrayed in the whole conversations, in River State. But people would argue that he's fighting for his life. And when you fight with someone who's playing dirty, you have to fight dirty as well. Olive?
Yeah.
I think I want to say that it's very condemnable what happened, but also any ideology around who did that, there is no concrete evidence that he either remotely or overtly was responsible for what happened. Just like what happened a few days ago, the burning down of all the secretariats of the local government. We've not been able to pin it to any individual, even though I have personally called for the questioning of all the ex-chairmen of those local government secretariats that have been born, So, I mean, anybody and everybody can also ask for the government of the day in Rivers State to be questioned about, yes, the destruction of the State House of Assembly. Like I said, it is absolutely condemnable. Anyone that destroy public properties built by the taxpayers' money of that state, that person is not fit for an office.
Okay, I mean, I think as we wrap up the conversation on River State before we move to Edo State, I think another concern that we've heard Nigerians express would be the fact that, yes, Siminalayi Fubara often would say, and his supporters would say that what he's doing is to dismantle a system that should not be applauded by our democracy, a system that, encourages godfatherism. But the fear is, if he does come out on the winning side, does he then become the monster that he conquered? Because if you recall, Nyesom Wike also had to fight out to be able to stand and to be able to actually rule independently, lead River State independently. So I think the fear would be that, does he then become the monster that he conquered if he comes out of this? Do you have those similar concerns as well?
Well, the point is, smart people learn from history. If he is not able to learn from history of the very thing that he's fighting, and he will turn around, become the promoter of the same evil that he's fighting against, then history will not be kind to him. The River State is becoming very difficult for any individual. What we're doing right now is a struggle to rescue the soul of Rivers State. And it's going to be very difficult in the future for one man to rise up and say the state is in his pocket. It's going to be difficult. The so-called structure has ruptured, it's been totally destroyed, because it's no longer business as usual. Whether anybody likes it or not, you can't lay hold on the power block of the state and arrogate it to yourself. Power is sweet, but when you acquire it from the back door, it will break you. I mean, I don't want to sell philosophy. It's the philosophy of force and choice. Yeah. When you force people to follow you, it will break you. But when people follow you by choice, it empowers you.
You've said that power is sweet, but when you take it through the back door, it would destroy
it will work against you.
Or it will work against you. Another person who's been accused of taking power through the back door is the governor-elect of Edo State. And we've seen through the elections in Edo State, the APC has emerged the winner of the elections based on the results, but the PDP firmly believes that they won the results, they won the elections, and that a lot of backdoor happenings happened to ensure that the APC came out on top. They've also said that the APC is frustrating their efforts at ensuring that they file a successful appeal in the court. So I want you to give us your thoughts on the Edo State elections, where they've come from and where they are now.
Well, I think I want to speak as one who had a first-hand experience. I was in Delta. I was there to monitor the inclusivity of the electoral process. But at the same time, I was able to spread my tentacle and, glean from all that happened. I'll give it to you in three perspectives. Number one is pre-election, the preparations, the campaigning, the three major candidates and how they conducted themselves and all that. Godwin Obaseki is someone that I respect, but I think he tried to, if I use the word, use over smartness. There are things that he would have fixed, and I think one of them was his issues with the Oba, the traditional institution. Where I come from, you don't play with that. It can work against you because they are the leaders of the grassroots. When you are Edo, when somebody raises an alarm that this is the enemy of the Oba, you've lost it completely. But again, they were too intelligent driven and philosophical and believed in all that they have, and all that. And again, political enemies too. There were too many political enemies against them. And so it didn't work out. Then during the election, I can only describe what I saw with this statement. It was a case of the highest rigor and the highest bidder. Both APC, PDP, both of them rigged. Both of them tried to buy votes. It's just that there were presence of Abuja-based boys who, in the cost, and of course, don't take away the experience of Philip. All of that played out against the sitting governor. There were too many loopholes that they couldn't block that worked against them. I can only describe that election as one of the worst off-cycle election in the history of this country.
Yeah, of course, doesn't create any trust, moving into 2027, because, in the next 1 year, that's going to be major of the conversation we're going to be having. 2027 elections, governance would, the president is currently in France. He first of all was in the UK on holiday vacation, and then he's reported that he's moving to France from there. Do you think that Nigeria is currently being properly managed under the current administration?
Well, if I run a company, or like I run an organization, no matter how much I do, if the people that are following me are impoverished, if meeting them the time that I met them has taken them much backward than when I met them, then it can be said that I'm not leading well. The problem with this administration is their inability to rejig the economy of the country, and maybe their refusal to own up the fact that they inherited an economy that was in comatose. Maybe because they are all APC, so they don't want to own up that. However, there's been policy somersault, trial and error. They have not been able to articulate, frankly speaking, a workable system. Maybe because of all the trial and error policies that have not effectively yield the expected result, And so no matter what they try to do, let them go back and look at the people. Are they better off compared to where they are coming from? And I don't think so. There's hunger in the land. People are struggling to make ends meet. And the more we continue in this direction, the more discontent the people will be, and it's not good for the current administration. I think there's a need to, every leader, when you make a decision, it's important for you to look at your decision and make a detour. If you know that it's not moving in the direction of the expected result. There's a saying that it's only a madman that throws stone, puts his head under the stone, and think he won't break his head.
So you don't agree with the temporary pain, things will get better in a bit narrative?
The temporary pain is becoming too painful than that most people in it, including me, don't know when we are going to come out of the pain. Are we going to go from pain to complete, painful, irresistible stoicism, which is a form of a Chinese system where he believes that suffering, he's used to suffering, so he's going to stay with that, So we are moving to that mood where we become stoic. You don't know when you're going to get out of it, but you just keep going. But there's a way around it. The way around it is, one, put the right people in the room, empower them to make decisions. And when it's not working, reverse it. And I used that for 20 years of leading my organization, And of course, I also know that because the first day you assume leadership is that very day you plan your exit.
Right.
So I am at the point where I'm going through my exit strategy, where I will have to bring in younger people to assume leadership position,
yes,
so that the organization can move forward. But we started well, and we started with just one person following me, and today I have 28 staff, and
And that's growth.
We're not doing that bad.
And that's that's how Nigerians want to feel like we started here and, years later, this is where we are a lot better. Unfortunately, like you've expressed, that's not the sentiment that Nigerians have expressed. Yesterday, they told us in another 10, 15 years, we'll start to see the change that we want. But the question is, do Nigerians have 10, 15 years left in them? Can they wait?
Well, how many people will be alive in 10, 15 years? If we keep going the way we are going, it's going to spell doom. I'm not a prophet of doom, but I've lived long enough to know there are certain things you don't do to push the people to the edge.
Yep.
Jake, it's a long conversation, but we unfortunately have to wrap up now. Jake Epelle, thank you so much. Founder of the All Rights Foundation. We wish you
Africa.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's encouraging to know that young people like you have a very objective thinking, and that's what journalism is all about. Don't practice gutter journalism.
Thank you very much for the kind words. Thank you for your encouragement. All right.